93, 94. We met in Canada many years ago, and we keep that connection all through these years. That this is our third official trip to Jamaica to do a seminar with the Jacksons. We went to Mandeville, had a good time, we went to Kingsway, the one in Kingston, and we had a good time, and we're here again in Red Ground. The Jacksons are in this, and with Dr. Jackson tonight, with his wife, Laverne Jackson, sitting there, Dr. Jackson too. They have been involved in Christian education for over 46 years. That's a long time. I have in mind for 51 of those years, 51 years. And they have a ministry in Tennessee named MEET, Missionary Educational Training, Evangelism Training. And they have been doing a lot of health work all across the United States, Canada, the Caribbean, and in Africa, different places of the world. So they are no strangers to the health field, the medical missionary field. And tonight is here to help us to understand simple basic things that we can use, that we can do, so that we can get help. You know, we know that it's God that do the healing. The Bible says that. God is the one that heals. But with his experience and with the information that he will share, it will help us so that God will help us to be healed in our sickness and our diseases. So at this time we want to turn over our attention before we hear the Thomas Jackson presentation tonight. We'll have our favorite. If you want good health, what we need to do? Nature's law. So I'm not a singer, so I'll wait for the singers to come so that they can sing this song. Sister Blake and Dr. Cameron.
If you want good health, nature's obey. All her precepts heed, never from them stray. Harmful habits shun, do not push yourself. When too tired, you may find will put you on the shelf. Health for you, health for me, health for all mankind. Healing for the halt and lame and vision for the blind. Health for you, health for me, health for all mankind. This our goal, our body, whole in spirit, flesh and mind. Take some time to play, stand straight, breathing deep. Work while it is day, always get your sleep. Eat just what you need, never more or less. Moderation is the guide to health and happiness. Health for you, health for me, health for all mankind. Healing for the halt and lame and vision for the blind. Health for you, health for me, health for all mankind. Healing body, whole in spirit, flesh and mind. Sunshine and fresh air, clean and wholesome food, proper exercise, bright and good. Keep the cheeks aglow, bodies fit and strong. Keep the brain alert and clean and give the heart a song. Health for you, health for me, health for all mankind. Healing for the halt and lame and vision for the blind. Health for you, health for me, health for all mankind. This our goal, our body, whole in spirit, flesh and mind.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for the leading out, my friend, for the voices. Well, we're on another journey this evening. Anybody remember our last subject from our last time we here? Anybody remember the subject? What did we talk about? Disarming diabetes. Disarming diabetes. So we're going to take another journey through this wonderful medical book. So you see up there, well, let me get in coordination here. Let's flip over. Did you bring your medical books? Well, let me see them. I got to see them. Well, I probably need to reprogram my brain. Did you bring your medical cell phones? Oh, dear, you're picking up bad habits in Jamaica. Yeah. That's all right. We're going to turn to the book here. You see it on the screen, so let's read our foundational text coming from the book of Psalms 100, verse 3. It's up there. Let's read that together. What does it say? Know ye that the Lord, He is God. It is He that has made us, and not we ourselves. We are His people and the sheep of His pasture. So that text tells us one thing, that God owns us. Two reason, by creation and redemption. So it's given us an owner's manual, the Bible, the wonderful Bible. Every product comes with a manufacturer's owner's manual. All right? Now, here are those 8 wonderful laws. So let us repeat them together. What's that first law up there? Godly trust. Second, open air. Third, daily exercise. Fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, and number 8, not 9, not 10, but 8 laws of health. And the Bible tells us in the book of Psalms 119:73, says, thy hands have fashioned me and made me, and give me what? And I shall keep thy commandments. God's plan. Now, what do we conceptualize or entitle God's plan? The Affordable Health Care Plan. Oh, let's go back. Oh, Bible Care. Oh, Bible Care, Affordable Health Care Program, abundant health, living healthy without being wealthy. That's true. You know, we have a friend here who tried something the other day. You remember that, my friend? You said you tried one of those simple remedies. You got a mic. I'll give you 5 seconds to tell me what happened. Cabbage leaf. Turn that mic on.
I tried the cabbage leaf, and it works. Because if you notice, I don't have my stick with me right now.
I noticed that you don't have your stick. I mean, where did you apply that cabbage leaf to? Where do you put it on at? Where? What part of your body?
On my 2 knees.
On your 2 knees. And therefore, I did not see you walking with your stick.
So I put down the stick, sir.
Talking to Mike, you singing to Mike, talking to Mike.
I put down my stick right now, and I'm not feeling any pain.
Come on now. Oh, how much did that cost you, man?
About 320. The doctors told me that it's $500,000 to fix the right knee, to operate on it. And I paid $320 for a cabbage.
Now get the rest of the change to God's program. That's all right. God tells us in John 3:2, beloved, I wish above all things that thou be in health, even as thou what? So prosper. Health matters. Let's choose wisely. All right, prudent man foreseeth evil and hideth himself. But the simple pass on and are what? So therefore, prevention is better than cure. The fence or the ambulance? What do we need? We need the fence to protect us. And what does the fence represent? The law of God. Very important to understand that. Now, you're in the right place at the right time, and those who's online dealing with high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, we want to help you to postpone your funeral so you can use the God-given time in your life to serve the living God. And when his time is over with you, then he will lay you to sleep or translate you. 8 doctors. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 9, verse 12, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. And John 5:6 tell us, or ask us, will thou be made whole? And that will be a question to us here, a question to those online. Do you want to be made whole? Wholeness. So what does it mean to be made whole? Jesus. Now this is Jesus' method of healing. Man sick of the palsy. His friend brought him to Jesus. And Jesus, first thing Jesus said to him, son, be of good what? Mental. And then he said, thy sins be forgiven spiritually. Take up that bed and walk. Physical, 3 aspects. So, cause to effect. Cause to effect. All right, since you're a very intelligent audience here, can somebody give me the number 1 principle of the sowing and reaping? What's the number 1? Out loud. What is it? Come on now. You reap what you sow.
And the reaping is more than the sowing.
And the reaping more than the sowing. You're doing good. And number 3. Are we stuck? All right. We reap what we sow. The reaping is greater than the sowing. Now, let me help you out. You put a grain of corn in the ground. You're going to get some ears, right? But when you put that corn in the ground today, it's not going to come up tomorrow or the next day or the next day. So therefore, the reaping is not immediate. Oh, we good. Immediate. Very good. Found in the book of Galatians chapter 6, verse 6 and 7. All right. What about this? Treating symptoms like mopping the floor while the water continues to pour. What's the solution to this problem? More mops. More people to mop the floor. What is the solution to the problem then? Cut the water off. That's what we're going to do here. We want to stop the leak. Leaky hearts. Because the cure is in the cause. We find the cause, we have the cure. All right, we're going to talk about God's plan for silencing the silent killer. And therefore, we have this wonderful book here called God's Plan for Silencing the Silent Killer. Gives you the whole protocol in this wonderful book. So let's ask God to take us through a journey here on this wonderful program. The heart of the matter. In Luke 21:26, the Bible says, men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming upon the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Fear causes heart trouble, anxiety, hypertension, the silencing this silent killer, the silent killer. God said in the book of Jeremiah, let's go back real quick, 33:6, behold, I will bring it health and cure. I will cure them and will reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth. God has the solution to heart disease. Protecting the heart. Leading cause of death in Jamaica, we found out, heart disease. Cancer, number 2. Diabetes, number 3. There's other conditions, but these are the top 3 leading cause of death in Jamaica. In 2019, stroke was the leading cause of death in Jamaica. The condition characterized by poor blood flow in the brain, cause nearly 82 deaths per 100,000 population. Diabetes mellitus, with a mortality rate of about 45% death per 100,000 people, was the second leading cause of death reported in that year. Cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, 2019 were the top 3 causes of death and disability, collectively accounting for 42% of all healthy life loss. Other non-communicable disease increased in burden to 3/4 of all healthy life loss. That's a lot of death from these 3 diseases. Heart issue, the biggest killer in the whole wide world, according to the World Health Organization. Heart disease, number 1, is the biggest killer. In developed nations, the proportion of total death rise to more than 50%, still increasing. Now, if you look at the second hand on your watch or clock, 1 death will occur within 30 seconds from heart disease around the world. Every 30 seconds, someone is dying from heart disease. Every 30 seconds. Silent killer. Who's at risk? We find women have hypertension less often than men until menopause. After menopause, the occurrence of hypertension in women equals men. Equal men. We find 600 million people worldwide. 300 million dying yearly. That's a lot of death, would you say so? And God has a financial plan that's so economic, we can stop it. Every 3rd adult has hypertension, every 3rd. So the Bible tells me in the book of Proverbs 26:2, the curse causeless shall not come. In Job 29:16, it says, the cause which I knew not, I searched it out. I searched it out. What should we do when disease comes? Number 1, we want to ascertain the cause. Number 2, change unhealthy condition. Number 3, correct wrong habits. And number 4, then assist nature in her effort to expel impurities and to reestablish right condition in the system. 4 simple steps come from a wonderful book called Ministry of Healing. Ministry of Healing. 4 steps. 4 steps. Let's move on here. We go back here. It says heart attacks are preventable. 9 out of 10 heart attacks can be prevented. Basically, all of them can be prevented if we strictly follow the plan. Now, what is blood pressure? Just a few points here real quickly. The heart pumps approximately 1,900 gallons of blood through our blood vessels in our body every day. 1,900 gallons of blood pumped. Blood pressure is the force applied against the walls of the arteries as the heart pumps blood through the body. The pressure is determined by the force and amount of blood pumped and the size of the flexibility of the arteries. Blood pressure is the measurement of force applied to the artery wall. Measurement, 1,900 gallons of blood through our arteries every day. Now, the heart is the size of your fist and weighs 10 to 11 ounces. Heart size of your fist. Now, unless you're a big guy, you might have about 2 fists, but really a simple fist. It weighs between 10 and 11 ounces. It says here, the heart pumps 1,250 gallons of blood daily with each beat. Every time our heart beats, over 1,200 gallons of blood. Now listen to this. The heart exerts 8 pounds of pressure on the circulatory system, equaling to about 30,000 pounds per hour. Now you cannot imagine that. Now, 30,000 pounds. You know, you got a lot of these trucks coming up and down the road. Some called 12. In America, we call 16-wheelers. You know, you're talking about 30,000 pounds. You can run about 5 or 6 trucks over your body. 5 or 6 of those trucks over and over again. It would not equal that pressure of the heart. Now, listen to this. The heart works 9 hours in 24 hours, and it rests 15 hours. Now, how can that be? Your heart rests 9 hours. Work 9 hours, just like an 8-hour day, but works 9 hours, rests only 15 hours. Now, how does that compute? It works 9 hours and it rests 15 hours. How does it do that? Anybody know? Anybody in the mic? Anybody know? Now let me ask you then. Say that was not even on the screen. Do your heart ever rest? Yes, it does. Well, when does it rest then? In between the beats. Huh? When it's working, then in between beats, it rests 15 hours. That's how we're going to find out when that blood pressure, it works only 9 hours if it's healthy. 9 hours. All right, now, the human body consists of 60,000 miles of blood vessel. This means this will circle the equator 2.5 times. The red blood cells travel through the blood vessels at the speed of 43.5 miles an hour. Even as I stand here, even as you sit there, the blood is traveling through 60,000 miles at a speed of 43.5 miles an hour, and you don't even feel the pressure. Fearfully and wonderfully made. Fearfully and wonderfully made. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. Heart attacks. What causes heart attacks? How does heart disease develop? A wound first takes place in the wall of the blood vessel. A wound takes place. Therefore, we find the body tries to heal the wound by covering it with a scab. So a wound takes place in the blood vessel. The body tries to heal it by covering it with a scab. So you see that wound there in that blood vessel. The wound keeps growing until it finally clogs the artery passage. That's a blockage. All right? And we find that this will definitely obstruct the flow of blood. Now remember, how many miles of blood vessels do we have? 60,000 miles. And what is the rate of the speed in which the heart pumps the blood? 42.5 miles. Now, all right. So we find that there's a blockage there. It's like a road blockage. If you find an individual just speeding, don't know ahead, there's a roadblock, he's going to go through the damage, through the roadblock, and eventually to his death. So now the heart got to try to pump blood through that obstruction, through the obstruction that you see up there. But it cannot do it, so that raises your blood pressure. It's working hard. It's working hard. Now it's interesting, when you have a blockage in the artery, what is the primary procedure that they do for blocked arteries for you? Anybody know? A bypass. Now, what is a bypass? What does it mean, bypass? So therefore, they will make another avenue, right? That stays blocked. Are you with me? It stays blocked. So they bypass, they make another artery to the designated area, so they divert in the blood and it flows. So that right there just stays the same. Then they have, what about another bypass? 2 bypass. 3 bypass. Now, think with me. Does that solve the problem? No. That bypassed the solution. Would you say so? Bypass the solution. Bypass. And people was very well with that. But they continue the same lifestyle habits. The same habits. Now, remember the womb. Free radicals. Free radicals are those toxins that thrives where there's low oxygen. Substance causes the initial wound in the blood vessel. Plaque is made up of cholesterol and other fatty substances, which mainly come from diet and lifestyle. Diet and lifestyle. Be good to your heart. It's always under pressure. Now, we're going to look at, very quickly, 7 pressure points. And this is in this book right here. 7 pressure points. High blood pressure occurs when, number 1, the heart pumps faster. Number 2, blood vessels constrict. Number 3, there's an increase of blood volume. Number 4, partial blockage of 1 or more blood vessels. 5, toxins in blood creating a traffic jam. 6, kidneys and or liver not functioning properly. And number 7, hypertensive individual, obesity. So let's summarize this. Number 1, the heart pump faster. This causes more blood to be pumped through the arteries. The rush of blood raises the pressure. As these vessels become smaller, the blood pressure raises because it takes more pressure to move the blood through a smaller space. Blood vessel constriction. There's an increased volume of blood. This simply means that there is more blood than necessary. This occurs when the body retains water. This water mixed with the blood causes more fluid to pass through the vessel because the heart must now pump the excess water that has been added to the blood. All right? Partial blockage. A clogged artery raises the pressure because the blood has to squeeze through the partial blockage. That is literally a clogged artery, and that is a nail in that artery. They had to bypass that situation. All right, next, toxins in the blood. These create a traffic jam within the blood vessels. When toxins aren't eliminated, when waste. I remember we were in a country and we were giving consultation like this, like we're doing here. And there was an individual who rushed to the hospital. Blood pressure went out of control. And so we went to visit this individual. And as the individual was lying there trying to recuperate, they brought in the tray of food for their dinner. And on the tray, I looked at it, just observing, and the food that was on the tray was food that clogs up the blood vessels, clog up the colon. And so, could not make recommendation right there, but after a period of time, the person got out and I said, did they check your colon? Did they check whether you was having adequate bowel movements? No, they did not check that. Listen to this. It says, this creates a traffic jam within the blood vessel. When toxins are eliminated from the various organs such as the skin, your lungs, and your colon, this person was chronically constipated. And when we worked with the person, eliminating that constipation, blood pressure went down. Now, they gave all the type of medicine, plus brought the food in the hospital, dumped all that clogged up food into the body, creating more problems. Toxins in the blood. Kidney and liver not functioning properly. All of the blood in circulation must flow through these organs, kidneys, liver. When they are not functioning properly, they create a slowdown in traffic, similar to that seen on the highway near construction sites or the scene of an accident. Kidney. Hypertensive individual, obese. Extra fat in the body adds miles and miles of blood vessels through which the heart must pump blood. The load on the heart is greater because of the increased length of the blood vessels. It takes more pressure to push blood through the longer distance. 7 pressure points. Blood pressure. Now, something very interesting. What is typical cited as normal blood pressure? Anyone? 120/80. Now, you are a very intelligent individual. Help me. How do they derive at that standard? How do they derive at 120/80 being normal? Anybody? Got to raise your hand, like to just tell me? Now, we all get our blood pressure taken, right? It's 120/80, we feel safe, am I right? So how we come up with that standard? Anybody understand my question I'm raising? No? There got to be a reason.
Tell us.
Huh?
Tell us. We don't know.
Tell us.
Yeah, we don't know.
I didn't hear you, man, because I can't hear you.
I said, tell it to us. We do not know.
That's a man, he wants that mic behind you. Get that man that mic.
Well, I think that 120 would be the pressure that the heart forces out, and 80
Okay.
would be the blood that comes
Relax.
in.
Okay, I understand that, but that's not my question. My question, how do we derive that normal blood pressure should be 120/80? Do you anybody understand my question? All right. What kind of research did they do?
They must have done some kind of research that showed what goes on in the body when the pressure is at different levels. And based on that result, they figured out that when it's 120/80,
Okay.
it's normal.
All right. Reason to bring this now. They did research, but we got to understand, what did they research? What?
What I do know is that it varies from person to person.
It most definitely varies from person to person. So they have to have a sample population of people that consider as being normal. Out of the research, that the research, okay, the average person within a certain population, this has been the trend, okay? That's a sample population of people, which now becomes the standard for all people. So therefore, when we look at blood pressure, now it gives a varies. You got to understand, because are you a researcher, doc? Do you do research? And when you do research, you got to have some type of population that you derive from it. Now, normally it does not fit every individual case, because now 140/90, 140, as you mentioned, you know, you have what you call the systolic and the diastolic. And which is the most important number? The top number or the bottom number? The bottom number. Why? All right, that's when the blood is going back to the heart, and that is at a resting state, right? So if that bottom number is above what they call 80, then you got some serious problem. Not the fact that the top number is not important, but nevertheless, when people come to our lifestyle center, we have a wonderful team of folks, and we realize that every body blood pressure to be normal is not necessarily 120 over 80. It could be 100 over 70. And so it's something interesting. But we go with the standard we find then. Here, idea, supposed to be 120 over 80. But remember that bottom number. Now if that bottom number is 100 or 200, it says 200. That's out of whack. It's out of whack. Now, what are the primary causes of cardiovascular disease? Smoking, diet, animal products high in fat and protein, sugar, other refined foods, additives and preservatives, sodium, that's salt, lack of exercise, and stress. Stress. The 8 doctors. So let's see how can we deal with this blood pressure. I always start with the first doctor, godly trust. Godly trust. God, you're going to trust either yourself or the living God. Man's heart failing. Stress. We finding rest in stress. So, what are the 2 primary principles that we said in order to manage stress when stress exceeds your or my capacity to respond constructively? Anybody remember the 2 principles? We got to remove and rearrange because there's a physiological effect. There's certain things in our lives we got to just move it out. Everything might be important, but everything is not necessary. Very important to understand that. Emotional stress causes all kinds of disease. Sickness, 1 minute of anger suppress the immune system for 6 hours. While healthy laughter improve it for 24 hours. Stress, killer. Finding rest and stress. Remove and rearrange. God said, come unto me, all you are what? And heavy laden, I will give you rest. Jesus invite us, give us that invitation. Trusting in God. Claim his promise. Book of Isaiah 26, 3 and 4. Proverbs 17, 22. Proverbs 16, 20. Claim. The book is filled with thousands of promises. We find there's an intimate relationship between the brain and there's an intimate relationship between the mind and the body. We saw this in our previous meeting. Prayer. Now listen to this statement. It's coming back from 1998. Issue of Jet Magazine questioned whether prayer could lower blood pressure. Whether prayer could lower blood pressure and high blood pressure sufferers. Again, the obvious conclusion was reached. The magazine reported of a study conducted by Duke University Medical Center in Durham, North Carolina. This study had over 4,000 participants over the age of 65. Scientific evidence shows that prayer works. Prayer works. The study found that those who pray and attend religious service on a weekly basis, especially those between the ages of 65 and 74, had lower blood pressure than their counterparts who did not pray or attend religious service. So if you don't get anything else, come to church this Sabbath, which is Saturday. All right, prayer. They found that the more religious, or I would say spiritual, the person is, particularly those who pray or study the Bible weekly, the lower the blood pressure. According to the study, these people were 40% less likely to have high diastolic pressure or diastolic hypertension than those who did not attend any religious study, pray, and study the Bible. Dr. David B. Larson, president of the National Institute of Healthcare Research, in Rockville, Maryland, who co-authored the study, also says that prayer can lower high blood pressure. The at-risk population of people with illness, such as the elderly, seem to be helped if they have faith and religious commitment. Dr. Lawson states, faith brings a calming state which helps decrease nervousness and anxiety with coping with day-to-day stress. And I guarantee you that statement is not just off the chart. Anxiety is a high blood pressure producer. Faith, true faith, trust emphatically in the power of God. Many inquire, how am I to make the surrender of myself to God? You see, you desire to give yourself to Him, but you are weak in moral power, in slavery to doubt, and controlled by the habits of your life of sin. Your promises, your thoughts, your impulse, your affections. The knowledge of your broken promises, forfeited pledges weakens your confidence in your own sincerity and cause you to feel that God cannot accept you. And that is in essence a untrue. God sent His only begotten Son when we were yet in a desperate fallen condition. Prayer. But you need not despair. What you need to understand is the true force of the will. The governing power. You can choose. Say, Lord, come into my life today. Come, take over. Godly trust. We can acknowledge those that listen on stream. All you have to do is say, Lord, I have broken promises, broken pledges. I invite you to come into my heart. Take full control. You got to give Him the invitation. What about God has a whole world in His hand? Trust in God. What about rest and high blood pressure? Rest. We find rest is so essential. You remember this? If you cannot sleep, Mom, anybody remember that? What it says, can't sleep, don't count sheep. Talk to the shepherd. Rest. Rest. Notice this. Remember the day of rest God gave us according to Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 through 11. Test has been made on body processes that are determined that for everyone, regardless of religious belief, the heart beats more slowly on Saturday than on any other day of the week. That is I'll get you the information. That is a research. God said He blessed the seventh day. You don't take a blessing. You go into the Sabbath and you are automatically blessed. That's rest. You didn't know about that, did you? What about water? Water. Very important. Well, remember 60,000 miles of blood vessels? When you don't drink enough water, the blood thickens. We got to drink water to increase the fluidity of the blood. What about temperance? Things that we put into our bodies. We try to make breakfast the heaviest meal and the supper the lightest meal. That means you eat like a king and a queen in the morning, prince and a princess in the afternoon, and a pauperess in the evening. Your heaviest meal should be breakfast and lunch. We have to reduce salt, and there's different types of salt that you get. You get Celtic salt, sea salt, and what's the other, that pink salt? Himalayan salt. But we have to be very, very moderate with salt. Salty food, 25% in that container, but salty foods you buy, you got to be very careful with your salt. And finally, what about, that's temperate. What about nutrition? Nutrition and heart disease. Disease associated with what we eat, arthritis, diabetes, and cancer. Danger, your life may be in jeopardy. You are what you eat. Man is digging his grave with his teeth. Counsels on Diets and Food, page 141. Digging our graves. Eating foods with a face is not God's design for the human race. Chicken has a face. Fish has a face. Eating flesh food increases disease 10 times more in humans. Again, Counsels on Diets and Food. So what are you saying, Jackson? Well, if you want to live, you need to remove things out of your diet. Very important. It says here, the National Academy of Science estimated that 60,000 babies born each year could face learning disabilities and neurological damage, all due to a fish meal or two consumed by their mothers while pregnant. Certain species of fish, particular predators like tuna, swordfish, shark, are often contaminated with mercury, which accumulates in the bodies from tainted waters. Fish. Now, I know we don't care about this guy here. The Bible tells us it causes high blood pressure. Carry parasites. Scavenger eat refuse and decaying matter along with eating dung. Pork is definitely bad for your health. God warns us about the pork parasites. There are paleopathologists going through, exhuming ancient ruins and finding filled with parasites. Unclean. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 7 and 8, unclean. We find, don't eat, don't even touch it. That's the pit. Anybody know what an outhouse is? Outhouse, outdoor toilet, pit toilet, you call it. You see, flies live in the pit toilet. Frogs eat the flies that live in the pit toilet. Snake eat the frog that eat the fly that live in the pit toilet. Let's go back. The pig eat the snake that eat the frog that eat the fly that live in the pit toilet. You eat the pig that eat the snake that eat the fly that eat the frog that eat the fly that live in the pit toilet. So therefore, why don't you just bypass the pig and go straight to the pit toilet if you're going to eat pork? Hello out there, And the swine of their flesh you should not eat. Should not eat. Mr. Swine. All right. Unclean. Eating at the outhouse. I'm in a country, and that when I walked past the table, there was Mr. Oink head on the table. The lady, she turned her face, got a shoe of flies. People come and buy that whole hog head. Whole hog head, sooner you dead. Problems eating meat. Purine. Notice that word purine. P-U-R-I-N-E. Take the P off of it, you have what? So eating that wonderful juicy steak, all you're doing is eating P from the animal. The byproduct is uric acid. Comes from protein food. High fat animal products. The heart is as fat as grease, but I will delight in thy law. Psalms 119:70. Heating can be harmful. Cooking with certain oils, frying foods, build up fat, cholesterol, etc. Margarine, fatty acids. We must reduce our intake. As I said last night, RIG, on many grades, it should be rest in grease. Reduce cholesterol. All animal products have high cholesterol. Plant-based food contains no cholesterol. Our body produces it for hormones and etc. Plant-based foods. Notice this, high cholesterol on the right side of me, no cholesterol. Cholesterol is found only in animal foods. Fruit, vegetables, grains, and nuts contains no cholesterol. We find, I can spend all night showing you the amount of cholesterol in these foods. You notice there, non-fat milk, milk 2%, milk 33%, egg white 0, mayonnaise 8, ice cream, that's dairy, butter, tuna, cholesterol. Whole list of foods we find. We find all the animals contain cholesterol. Look at the beef brains, 1,600 grams of cholesterol. Beef liver, 410. Caviar, shrimp. Boy, shrimp used to be my forte. Man, I went to school in Iowa in the United States, but I raised in Chicago. I drive 500 miles back to Chicago, get that old nasty shrimp. Wow. Deadly good. Deadly good. Huh? God gave me the victory over that. Garlic. Taking some garlic. Now, some people go overboard with garlic. I mean, they take garlic every day, boy, move. So I had to share with them, if you're going to eat garlic every day, you need to have some lemon to curtail that breath. But garlic will definitely lower the triglyceride and the fats. Eliminate flesh food, eggs, and dairy products. No fiber in meat. We want the God's-like activating diet. Low in fat, high in fiber, low in protein, high in nutrient. Fiber. Good source of fiber. Fiber. Look at the fiber. Whole wheat bread, bagels, pita bread, popcorn, oatmeal, spaghetti. These are whole grains. Fiber. Cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, pinto beans, navy beans. Fiber. That's what you need. Fiber food. Apples, blackberries, oranges, raspberry. You find eggs, no fiber. Meat, no fiber. Milk, no fiber. Cheese. Is that what you're living on? You're asking for clogged up arteries. Green leafy vegetables. Lettuce, spinach, cabbage, mustard greens, turnip greens, dandelion, kale, callaloo, bok choy, broccoli, asparagus, parsley, watercress, dasheen leaves. Can you get some of that food over here? Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good food over here. Wonderful food. Papaya and all these wonderful foods over here. Peas, beans, lentils, maize, fruits, vegetables. This is what God wants us to eat. Jamaica's superfood. Look at the Jamaican superfood. Mango, cassava, banana figs, peas and beans, bran cereals, cabbage, carrots, green leafy vegetables, guava, pumpkin, pawpaw. High in nutrients, vitamin C, good for these conditions. So therefore, everywhere we go, God has food for you and I. Jamaican medicinal plants for the heart. Brother Cliff and I was taking a walk, and I told him that aloe vera is called the single Bible here in Jamaica. Avocado leaves or bark. Breadfruit leaves, coconut water, dandelion, garlic, lily of the valley, lime, linseed, onion, Spanish nettle. Say it again. Oh, I'm sorry. I got it spelled wrong there. So you already know about that, right? Yes, ma'am. You eat that, man? Yeah, all right then. All right. We're on target then. The best diet today is pure vegetarian. God said, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, of all the land, and every tree with seed in it, in its fruit, you shall have them for food. So God's support emphatically a plant-based diet for high blood pressure. Here's some high blood pressure medicinal food. Sour apples, cayenne, celery, eggplants, flax seeds, garlic, hawthorn, that's an herb, lemon, onions, even Irish potatoes, medicinal food for heart disease. Wonderful God has given us. The only food category not linked to any major disease: fruit, nuts, grains, and vegetables. Nutrition. And as we come to the conclusion, I want to share with you, when I deal with cardiovascular, a testimony that I want to share with you. So the doctor said, what about genetics? Heredity is not destiny. We find that heredity loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Did you get that? Loads the gun. That means you might inherit a predisposition, but you can alter that through lifestyle, and lifestyle is found in those 8 laws of health where you just went through. Lifestyle. There's no healing in the pill. Pill might give you some temporary comfort, but it does not get to the cause of the problem, not the cause. God's plan. This is the plan. The 8 doctors. Health is a what? Choice and not a chance. We got to choose to be healthy. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Turn to Revelation chapter 12 as I come to a closure here. I want to share with you a brief testimony. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 10 and 11, can somebody get a mic and read Revelation 12 and read verses 10 and 11 for me? Who has it?
And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accuse them before God day and night.
So what verse 11 say?
That's 10. We live now. And they overcome him by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of their testimony, and they love not their lives unto the death.
They overcome him by the what?
Blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony.
Just like you gave a testimony with that cabbage. All praise to God. Here's a brief testimony. I shared it briefly. Show you some picture. July 17th, October to July 17th to October the 1st, 2015. My wife and I had a missionary journey to London, England for 10 days to conduct meetings like this. So when we arrived in London, England, that Friday morning, we were dispatched from the airport, taken to the place there in London, England, where we're going to spend the next 10 days with a family. And the wife is a nurse, and she went through our medical missionary training school in the United States. So they want to start a lifestyle center in London, England. We've been there many times, so this time it's just a tune-up. So when we got there, we fellowshiped, we ate, we took a little walk. They were living in the city. And that Friday night, we laid down preparing for the next day, which is Sabbath. And as my wife tells part of the story, and as I shared with some here, and as we laid down, my wife heard a grunting sound coming from my body. And she shoved me. She said, honey, honey. And there was no movement at all. My eyes wide open. She kept pushing. And she called downstairs. The dear sister came up, checked my vitals. Nothing. 15 minutes lapsed. She run back downstairs to get some cayenne pepper, which is a vasodilator. She put it in my mouth. It drove off the side of my mouth. Nothing happened. 25 minutes lapsed. Then finally, they called the ambulance. 35 minutes had elapsed going on. Then they came, my wife, they did their thing. They took me out of bed, put me on the floor, started their routine. Then they threw me in the ambulance. They drove past a hospital that was 6 blocks from the house and took me to a hospital called King's College Hospital. There they froze my brain. Froze my brain for 24 hours. Now this here, this testimony, up there you see on the screen, a defining moment in my 45 years as a Christian. An encounter that changed my relationship with a loving and compassionate God and the trajectory of my life, which that's 8 years ago. To God be the glory. There I am in the hospital, King's College. No breath, state of unconsciousness. That's July 17. Bed 7 on critical care unit in King's. Our daughter came from the United States to be by my side. We find still unconscious one of my spiritual daughters. She lived in England, praying for a miracle. So they posted this on the World Wide Web. Call for worldwide prayer, Tuesday, the 26th of July. This picture of me was put on the website, worldwide prayer, Facebook picture, everybody praying at 12 p.m. GMT time. That's Wednesday, 22nd. Prayer time. Now, when I stayed in that condition for 7 days, and as I said, in that 7-day state, small, still voice spoke. As I said over and over, I did not see Jesus Christ. I did not see holy angels. I did not see angels ascending and descending. I didn't hear Gabriel blowing his trumpet. Small, still voice gave me 3 scriptures. Proverbs chapter 20 to 23. 23 says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out it come the issues of life. Proverbs 4, 20, 23. Then he gave me Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Who can trust it? Then Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 20 to 24 and 23, 24 said, I'm going to take away that stony heart and give you a heart of flesh. And then I had a 10 to 15 second flashback, not from my birthday, from the time I embraced these precious truths and accepted Christ into my life. At the age of 27, then at the age of 30, I entered into this work full time. And I have experienced the power of God in the lives of people. Right here in this country, my first encounter with HIV, AIDS, where my experience began with my first client with HIV. I learned through this process. I've seen in my life, have doctors contact us. I remember one medical doctor, I was a friend to him. He had a client that had AIDS. Her T count was below 25. It has to be up to 500. And the doctor sent her home to die. He called us, and that was one case where that woman T count went up to 500, using simple remedies as single Bible, aloe vera, pokeweed, etc. Trust. I seen cancer, people overcoming cancer. I seen diabetes. Yes, I had people die. I seen them die. I dealt with children. It gave me all the flashback. I just knew that I was on the right pathway to heaven. Then the voice said, many gonna come to me and say, son, many gonna say, haven't we cast out demons in your name? But I knew not you workers of iniquity. Then the last 2 things the voice said, son, I do not have all of your heart. Now, if I could have talked, I could have fussed at God. I said, what, you don't have all my heart. I done left a good paying job, houses, et cetera, but I could not talk back. Then the voice closed out and said, surrender. Surrender. I'm going too fast. And when I woke up, 27 July, looked like I'm all drugged up. I woke up hungry. Now I sat in a chair for occupational therapy. Son comes to visit the next day. Out of critical care unit, recovering beautifully. And I remember 5 doctors that surrounded my bed at that time. Couldn't barely walk. And I woke up. I had a scripture that I've been sharing with y'all here, Proverbs 26:2, the curse calls and should not come. So I quoted that scripture to those 5 doctors as though they understood what I was talking about. But this is what I said, but I had to mumble. But I asked the doctor, I said, Doctor, what are your diagnoses of my condition? What contributed to it? There was a 10, 15-second silence. Then the main doctor spoke and he said, well, Mr. Jackson, we have examined you from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. We looked at the inside of you clearly. And we found nothing organically wrong with your heart. Your arteries are clean as a baby. Now, I know the prognosis. Prognosis is death. So I said, now, Doc, what's your protocol? What steps you going to take to prevent this from happening again? Because when I was in that hospital, 3 people died from the electrical current failing. Cricket player, soccer player, all in their 30s. Then another gentleman was 34 years of age. He died, I think, one day before his wedding. All 3 of them died of the same situation. And there I was. So the doctor said, okay. And when they do not know the cause, there's something called idiopathic. They attribute to heredity. There's no one in my family that has electrical malfunction of the heart. So I said, now what's your protocol? So they were going to run an electrical probe through my arteries up into the right chamber of my heart. There's, in the right chamber of your heart, there's a node that conducts electricity. Now, Spirit of Prophecy called that vital force, electrical current. So they said we're going to have to destroy that node in the right chamber of your heart. Just wipe it out. So now, what does that leave me with? Huh? Nothing. So either, Doc, I had to get a heart transplant or a pacemaker. So as I lying there praying 5 seconds, I responded. I thank the doctors for their professional care that they rendered to myself and my wife, and for their definite intervention. So I kindly refuse that procedure. Now I'm there, definitely sick, because they're talking about zapping that out. But if I don't get nothing, I'm dead. So the doctor said, well, there's only 2 medical institutions in close proximity where you live. One was Vanderbilt Hospital, which is in Nashville, Tennessee, hour and a half from me, and University of Alabama, which is another 5 hours. So I think we spent a month in the hospital there, about a month. I had to learn how to walk all over again. And I laid there contemplating what took place, contemplating that voice I heard speaking those scriptures to me, contemplating those scriptures that spoke to the heart. Though I had something organic is supposed to be malfunction, but God was talking about this heart, this heart. He want to not repair this mind. He want to give me a new heart. I drew from that experience that in 37 years, I still was in control of my life. I still had my hands on the affairs of God's work, on the ministry, and praying at the same time that God will be done, but in my heart, I am in control. Does anybody understand that? Even to the point where when I pray, knowing deep in my heart, I want my prayer to be answered the way I want it to be answered. Now, you don't have to respond, but I know that's typical of Christians. Because we get a scripture, Psalm 37, whatever, God will give you the desire of your heart. We misinterpret that scripture. Because God is not going to give you and I the desire of our wicked heart. We got to have a heart like his. Are you with me? And so, therefore, my prayer life, as I mentioned over and over, I use God as a slot machine, and I dump my little quarters into the slot machine and wanted my prayers to be answered. Proverbs chapter 4, 20, 23, Mark 7, 21, 23, Jeremiah 17, 9, Ezekiel 36, 26 and 27. New heart. God said, surrender. If that should be a button on the computer that delete control. Control. Huh? It says here from sons and daughters, until the heart is surrendered unconditionally to God, the human agent is not abiding in the true vine and cannot flourish in the vine and bear rich clusters of fruit. God will not make the slightest compromise with sin. If he could have done this, Christ need not have come to our world to suffer and die. No conversion is genuine, which does not change both the character and the conduct of those who accept the truth. The truth works by love and purify the soul. Unconditional surrender, what God was seeking for this wretched person. We need a broken heart. Not until our heart is broken. All the scriptures here, a broken heart. That experience brought me face to face with my own self, that I still had control of my life. And our question is, how can we have room for God's presence and blessings with all that stuff residing in our heart? The good news is that God is ready not to repair my heart, but to replace our hearts once they are broken. Not repair, but replace. Broken means that we come face to face with Calvary and recognize our hopelessness and our need for Jesus Christ. Only the heart transplanted by God has the capacity to house his spirit. How many want that new heart? I know I do. New heart. When we allow the exchange of our hearts for his, then he may safely, I'm going to go over this again, listen to me. When we allow the exchange of our hearts for his, then he may safely fulfill his promise to us. Promises of pardon, peace, prosperity, and possession. Ezekiel chapter 36, 28 to 33. Psalms 37, 4. The desires of your heart. In order to get the desire of our heart, we got to have a heart like Jesus. Keep that in mind. Desires. For it is God which worketh in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure. It's God that worked in you and I, not us working. All we need to do is to choose God's way, that abiding. Choose his way. Choose his way. And you can, I believe it's either in Christ's Object Lesson, page 139. I thought I had it on the screen. This is what God wanted. It says here, the language of the soul will be, Lord, I cannot give you my heart. I give you what? Permission to take my heart. because I cannot give it. It's yours. I give you consent to take my heart, to keep it pure for thy glory, and save me in spite of my unchristlike weak self. Shape, fashion, and mold this heart until it become entirely like the heart of Jesus Christ. And raise me up into a pure atmosphere of heaven, that his rich current of love might flow through my soul to everyone that come under my influence. This should be the plea of every one of us, to give God permission. That's very ironic that our hearts already belong to God. Why would we give him permission to take that which is already his? What do you think about that, huh? Because God is a wonderful, merciful God. He gives us a free will, but we give him permission to take this heart. And may this be our cry this evening as we contemplate what we learn on God's plan, the silent killer. Any closing questions or comment before we have our final announcement? Any closing questions or comments? All right, I have 3 questions. Name me 3 things that you can remember from the presentation, God's plan for the silent killer. Number 1, what do you remember? Number 1, anyone? Hold the mic.
The heart has 60,000 miles of, what you call it, you know?
Blood vessels.
Blood vessels.
60,000 miles. How many times can that circle the earth equator? Anybody? How many times? 2.5 times. All right. Since I want to give me a second thing. Yes, my brother.
Eating flesh increase disease 10 times.
10 times. 10 times. Now Jackson didn't say that. That's the word of God said that. All right. Give me another one. Anyone? Oh.
Okay, 47% less.
Go ahead.
Or, I was saying 47% less diastolic and systolic.
41?
47% less diastolic and systolic.
47% less.
Yes. For those
Blood
who pray.
pumps at 43.5 miles per hour, I believe. Blood pumps at 43.5 miles per hour, yes. The heart rests 15 hours per day in between beats, right? And the heart rests on the Sabbath more than any other day. Yeah.
Blood pressure is low on the Sabbath. You see, nobody else remember that. All right? Nobody remember that. We got another hand back there. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, heredity is not our destiny.
Uh-huh.
Heredity loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger.
That simply means our lifestyle, how we live, will impact that. You had a. All right then. Anyone else before we have these final announcements? That's good. Remember now, I tell you what you do. You check your blood pressure. Tonight, whenever I take your blood pressure, Friday morning, take it. Then Sabbath, check it out again. If you're praying and praising God, that blood pressure going to be lower, right? Right?
Yes.
Right?
We believe that, sir.
Faith. Trust in God.
Yes.
Anxiety. It says Christians with anxious hearts because they have not made complete surrender to God. And they fear the consequences of such surrender. If they do not make this complete surrender, they cannot have peace. May the peace of God be with us this evening. Final announcement. Final announcements. Prayer. We got any final announcements before we close out. We'd like to thank our friends online. Come on forth and join us. Remember God's plan for the silent killer. Saturday, we're not here Friday. We'll be back here Sabbath. We have some meetings on Sabbath. You will have your regular Sabbath school. My wife will be giving a presentation after the Sabbath school. I will be giving the main service, and I will be dealing with the healing power of forgiveness. How to forgive others. That's the key. And then Sabbath afternoon, I will be talking about the answer to cancer. We're going to have a full day. All right, my brother, come forth.
Okay. Dr. Jackson for allowing the Lord to use him to bless our hearts once more.